everyone! I hope you're enjoying my month of ink. Today we're going to be talking about alcohol ink. Before I get into that, if this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Tony Hunt, and I like to talk about art and healing crystals. So if you're into either of those things, stick around, subscribe. I would love to have you. So let's get into alcohol ink painting. I consider this a little different than when I do my air movement with my fluid alcohol inks. With this, I'm using dry palettes with a brush with a controlled amount of alcohol on it. And don't worry, I'm going to do a demo here in a little bit so you can see what I mean. I'm going to go through all the tools I use, but this is another way to utilize your alcohol inks. So let's get right into it. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do if you want to paint with your alcohol inks is either get a pre-done palette from Ranger, and I say pre-done, the alcohol ink is not in it. I'll put a picture of it right up here. They have these nice little palettes that you can make your own alcohol ink palette, or you can do what I've done, and I made this before this was a popular thing, but I just took these little paint palettes, and each one is like a different color, you know. So here, and this isn't all my alcohol inks, this is just a few of them that I find to reach for a lot, and I just put a few drops in and I labeled it so I know which color it is. And it's hard to tell what color you've got in here, and that's another reason why I make swatch cards, right? So yeah, I went through, and here's my purple one. This is like my neutrals. We got black and a gray. Here is my bluish colors, reds and pinks, yellows and oranges, olives and greens, and here's some extra for whatever I want to do. And I can also use these to mix as I go along. But I've also found it useful to use a ceramic palette to mix paints on. Whatever you choose to do. Just know that alcohol ink will stain some things, like it actually stains this plastic. So if you don't want to see the color left behind and it be on there forever, you might want to use something a little less porous. Let's start off by talking about what substrate I'm going to be using today. And I've got Yupo or Yupo. I've heard it pronounced both ways, paper. And really it's kind of like a piece of plastic, pretty much. And that allows your alcohol ink to move and get some fluid motion. And I'm going to do just a simple apple today, nothing fancy, so I can show you how to do this. And I have my brushes, and I keep these just for alcohol ink. Keep them separated from all my other brushes. I also have my porcelain paint palette over here. I've went ahead and picked out some colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this for a second. So I know I'm going to be using a lot of these reds. We got some yellows, oranges, probably going to need some of those. And then we've got some greens over here for our background. This is what I do first. I actually go in, just like you would and maybe watercolor, I'll go in and just spray this palette a little bit. Like that. Okay, I'm going to let them sit. And then the dried alcohol ink is going to get a little gummy. And that's how I want it to pick up my colors. I don't want it really runny. All right, so I'm going to show you. I'm going to briefly just sketch out a couple of apples on here. And what I have done is in this well right here. Oh, I didn't clean out my brush very well, did I? That's okay, because we're just going to quickly sketch out. I'm just going to use this ginger right here. And I'm barely picking up color. You see that? Just barely. And I want an apple here. There. And maybe another one here, a little bigger. Okay. Like that. And we might have some leaves like this. And I don't want a whole lot of color at all when I'm doing this. I'll kind of have something out over here. Okay, like that. All right, something really simple. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some background color in there. And I'm going to take, I love this lettuce. I love this lettuce color. Now this is the most fluid you're going to see any of these alcohol inks today because I'm doing a quick background. But other than that, you don't want to see this much alcohol in your ink. Today, at least. Okay, now I want to come in here and add some shadows before I get too far. So with my brush that I don't have a whole lot on, I'm just going to barely tap it in this brown. Bring it up the side a little bit. Just a little bit, like this. Just making some colors. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to, this is probably a Princeton round or Filbert brush. I like this one a lot. And we're going to start filling in these apples. Oh, and I don't know if these are Honeycrisp apples, but there's quite a bit of yellow in there. So I'm going to go over here. I think that Dijon's going to be nice. And if you notice when you're putting down your color that it's expanding, you know, it's blooming, then you've got too much alcohol in your brush. Painting with alcohol ink is all about alcohol control on your brush. Once you have that down, you can paint anything. And somebody that I followed for a while that's really good at doing this kind of technique is Sharon AK Harris, and I'll try to link her somewhere around here. She does a lot of these kind of loose alcohol ink paintings on a dry palette like this. It's just another way to use your alcohol inks. It's fun. But yeah, just go in and just experiment with a brush and just a little bit of alcohol on your dry ink palette. And I think you're going to enjoy it. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. I mean, alcohol is pretty forgiving. You can spray this all with alcohol and just wipe it off if you really have to. So you notice down here that my green kind of went into where I wanted my apple. It's okay. You just go on top of it. Now, if you don't want a color to move, say this was finished and I didn't want to mess it up in any way, that Kilty layering solution works really well when you're painting with alcohol ink. And don't forget about your alcohol ink markers. They're fun to do some foliage and things with. And if it comes off too strong at first, dip it in some alcohol. Let me get out a little thing. So I'm going to put in this leaf over here. Let me get some of this out of the way. So if I just go and draw on this, it's pretty dark. I may not want that. So I will actually swirl these in alcohol. And it'll it'll expand out like that. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, and this is my favorite leaf marker here. Get some green in here. I'm going to go back over this with a brush. Let's take that same alcohol that we dipped our marker in and just dry off our brush a little bit. Okay guys, so that's a basic little tutorial on how to paint with alcohol ink. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from this. If you practice, I'm telling you, it's not going to be as hard. When you first do this, nothing ever works or goes well. I know from experience, but if you work at it, you can make some pretty neat pieces. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye!